Okay, hello and welcome to another video tutorial. This will be a very short one. I'll be covering the beta version of the character component for the GameBridge extension for Storyteller. Now, the first thing that I'm going to want to do here is just quickly walk you through what's happening here. So we're taking data from this scene here called the NPC walk-up scene. We walk up to different NPCs. We're taking that scene data here from Storyteller, from the canvas, and we're pushing that data over into our new, what's formerly called dialogue data, now called scene data. We push it into our scene data, which can now be used in-game. And then we just assign the scene data to individual characters, and magic happens, and then you can use it in-game. So I'm going to break down that magic a little bit and go into some detail and show you how you can just put this together. Again, you can download this on GitHub. It was supposed to be sent to Unity to be put on the AssetStore for the first official beta release on the AssetStore, but there's some bugs in it, so it's going to be on GitHub. You can get it right now. If you have Storyteller, you can use it with it. All right, and there are two components with it. There's the character and dialogue, or there's going to be other components, and there's going to be a section where you can add your own components to it. More on that later, but for now, let's just continue. All right, so I'm just going to select my player here. I'm going to go to the inspector, and you can see if I select my player here, or select any node that is attached to our player or chained to our player, then we get information on that particular node here inside the inspector. Similar to how the properties tab works here. But over here, this means that this data is actually going to be in the game. We push it here, push it back over here, we use it. All right. Now how to get this entire thing set up, how to make your character walk up to the NPCs and actually have conversations, it's actually quite simple. So I'm just going to start over a little bit here. So we do have 4 NPCs and 1 player. So I'm going to grab my NPC data. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to start it over for you. And hopefully I don't break anything too badly. All right, so I'm going to go to create. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to go to GameBridge and create scene data. This was formerly called dialogue data, and now it's called scene data. I'll call this NPC. Sorry for the loud keyboard. All right, now that's our NPCs data, and we're exposing some values here so you can see more of what's going on under the hood. All the source code is exposed for the GameBridge, so you can check out what's going on. Later on, what's going to happen is that I'm going to hide a lot of this data here, since it's not something that you'd want to see, but you'll still have access to all the codes. All right, moving right along. Since we just deleted our NPC scene data, we're gonna have to reassign it wherever it was. So if we went ahead and we created an empty game object, or if we had a character in our game and we wanted that character to be using this player's data. So again, just how the character component works is that it takes individual character data from the scene and it will assign it to an individual game object, and then all those game objects will interact with each other in a way that's outlined in the timeline here. So however they're set to interact here, they'll interact. However, as I'll show you, you can have rogue characters that can jump into conversations at any time, and that adds to what makes a story even more dynamic. All right, we'll go into that a little bit later. So if we have an empty game object, we want to go to bridge. Again, to open GameBridge, you right click in Storyteller, go to Windows and select GameBridge. You open the GameBridge, click character. Now we've made this game object a character. Now one thing that we want to do here, now that we have that, let's go back to bridge. We can select this NPCs here, and let's select the scene whose data we want to push over to the scene data, then click push. That's all. It's been sent to it. All right, just go back here now, go to the inspector, and just drag in that NPC data here. Let's go ahead and select the character we want to use. We want to use the player, so we're just going to select player and click setup, and we've now set up the player. Now, if you can customize the code. Remember, all the code's exposed. However, by default right now in this beta stage, we're working with a UI. We just call it stage canvas, and we assign various parts of this canvas here. So a section for name UI, where we're going to display the character's name, dialog text, where it's going to be the text for the dialog is going to be displayed, a move next and a move back button, and a static number of routes the character can take, so the maximum number of routes the character can take, and we're going to sort through that and display the matching route number. You'll see all of that a little bit later on. All right, but for now, let's just go back here. So as you can see, whichever node we select here, we get data representation of that data here inside of the inspector. So it's similar to the properties window, however, all this data used in game. So if we select our player here, we're going to need to turn on that character, make that the player. If it's not the player, then it won't have control over how the dialogue flows. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and select this character here. All right, and then we'll just scroll down here. Now, as you can see, we have some text in here. We can see that the text is matching, so everything's okay. All right, let's go ahead and just delete this player that we just made. We have to reassign this scene data again, because remember we deleted the last one, and we're gonna have to do a setup for that again. So I'm just click reset up. I'm gonna do that for the rest. So this is NPC 4, that's correct. This is for NPC 3, setup, NPC 2, setup, and NPC 1, and just click setup. All right, that's it, that's done. Now, for this particular scene here, depending on who our character speaks to, the entire flow of the story will change. Well, not the entire flow of the story, but a different set of dialogues will appear in the conversation box. And the very first thing that needs to happen is that you need to choose which route you're going to take. And since we're not going to be manually choosing the route, it's going to happen automatically. We're going to have to set a condition here. So we select this first, zoom down to it, path check is a route node, and if we look at the route node data here, we can see that we've assigned two things to it. In this condition, it states that it's just going to automatically start, and it's going to run this function. If you go to character, it's going to run this function called continue on route, which is going to basically say whichever character you choose to speak to, just continue on that route path. There's another one, which is go to route. You can actually choose which route you want to go to. So let's go back here, continue on route, and there's another one which will be turning on our stage canvas. So it's going to launch a stage canvas, and this probably should have been the first one. It doesn't actually matter though. All right, so what's going to happen here is that I should be able to run this right now. I wonder if I'm missing anything. I don't think so. Let's go ahead and run this. And as you can see, I haven't written any code. There are a couple of other things going on. I'll show you a little bit. So let's hope this all works fine. And then later, I'll show you a little bit of what the bugs are a little bit later on. All right. So I think we just ran to the first one. active character dialog set. All right, so let me just go ahead and switch this off. I'll just do it manually. So there's this weird bug which I'll be working on. So basically what happens is that the automatic function which chooses the path for you depending on who you speak to somehow started to malfunction. So it basically works like this. Whenever you go ahead and speak to a character, oh, forgot to turn it off. Whenever you go ahead and speak to a character, you get the UI, and this would be 0, this would be 1, this would be 2, representing the first 3 characters here. NPC4 is a rogue character, and I'll show you that a little bit later. So if we choose the first one, what would happen is that we'd get this correct dialogue. So this is the correct dialogue that we're supposed to get. I need all the magic potions, blah, 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 blah. And the conversation goes on from there. You want some god tier potions, etc. That's just for me to know, blah, 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 blah. And all of that's fine. And then what can happen here, let's just leave this conversation and start it over again. All right, before we start it, let's go ahead and start the conversation. Let's go to the scene here. Let's let this guy jump into the conversation. I know he's in the conversation. All right, let's go ahead. Hi, da, 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 da. And then he says blah, 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 blah. And the conversation does continue regardless of whatever route you choose. This moron who just jumped into the conversation is going to keep interrupting you. So that adds a new dynamic to the conversation. However, there's a little bit of trickiness to that though, which is when this character actually leaves the conversation, where in the conversation do you pick up from? So that's something that I'll be dealing with here, trying to figure that out. And also, yeah, trying to figure out why the automatic path choosing function isn't working as it should. However, the manual choice function does work. It's basically calling the same function. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's the execution order. I'll have to find out that. However, I've shown you how you can go ahead and just set up the scene here. Yeah, as you can see, it's actually quite easy, and you're gonna be getting this example scene with the characters in it. These are free characters. Actually, the robots here are free characters. This is one which I modified from a example character that Unity made. All right, so let me go ahead and exit that. All right, now if we go ahead and look a little bit into the stage canvas here, you can see we just created 4 buttons, and as I'd mentioned before, we simply assign those buttons here. So we go to the player and we see our route buttons here, and we assigned 4 route buttons. If in our scene here inside Storyteller we had a route that had 6 buttons, then we'd want to set a maximum of 6 buttons here to know that we have enough space to deal with 6 different routes simultaneously. But since we have a maximum of 4 routes, then we only need to assign 4 route buttons here. And it's going to choose which ones to actually display to you. And the route will change based on whichever one you pick. Now if you go ahead and select this button here, we got something on the called a click listener, and if you're going to be working with the dialogue or character in the same way that I'm working with it right now, then you just probably need to assign a click listener to it the way I'm doing it right now. Again, you're going to get the example scene so you can see how it's set up. Click listener is quite simple. If you can go ahead and just open up that code here. So basically what happens is that whenever you click on the button, it takes the index of the button in the list and sets that sets the route node's route ID, which represents the path that the route is going to take. It sets it to be the index in the list of the button. It's quite simple. All right, so that just covers this basic function right now, and I'll be working on trying to fix that automatic start function. Now, again, you can get it on GitHub. And before I go, there's one thing I want to check really quickly. So there's a different scene here. The dating sim scene. I don't need this scene. Let's go ahead and go to this scene. Save that. Because I'd modified a lot of the code, I just want to make sure this scene also works. So last time we left off, the dialog was working perfectly. It was working great. So let's hope that it's still working as fine as it was before. Perfect. All right, so that's great. Good, so that works perfectly. And the setup for that is just as easy. So yes, the setup for Dialogger did change, but it's still quite simple. So again, we just assign this dating sim dialog here, and we just click setup. And you're gonna get the example scene, so you'll see all of this. Alright, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video when hopefully that silly bug is fixed and everything's working great for the character component as it is working for the dialogger component.